Every day, you essentially pay your dues by doing the harder thing when it's the right thing to do.
I love the assault bike after you do a workout. I like it. If that workout is really long and you are creating blood lactate, then I like the fact that there are so many muscles being used that could potentially pull that lactate out of the bloodstream and consume it as a fuel in my slow twitch aerobic fibers. But the thing is that if they never practice that movement, they have never done an assault bike after training to clear blood lactate, then the body's not efficient at it. You have to practice it. So if a gymnast is sitting in a chair during their 10 minutes, that's all they become good at. This is something that needs to be added to their training protocol to develop or accelerate the rate in which their muscles that have just worked so explosively, right, and developed not only blood lactate, but imagine the tremendous localized lactate that's developed in the muscles moving and the neighboring muscle groups is massive. Yeah. And if they focused on that in their training and included protocols of that, the recovery period, that 10 minutes, their body would be more prepared for the next routine, without a doubt. Yeah, and that second vault becomes pretty tricky for those athletes because that phosphagen system hasn't had a chance to recover.
Right.
But if we are training very high intensity, like a sled into a recovery of shorter time domain, I think we can create a very similar stimulus, meaning something like doing a 6-second sled sprint, whatever the equivalent time to hit the vault is. And then what I want to do is I want to do a recovery based upon the amount of time it takes for them to get back and do the second vault. And I want to do multiple rounds. I never want to allow that athlete to fully recover. And we call this like lactate stacking type workouts or lactate tolerance workouts, where each round is going to get more difficult for them to push the sled because of the accrued lactate in the localized muscle group. And then it's going to spill into the bloodstream. And the athlete's job is to keep the motor units firing. What we're looking for is a high degree of motor recruitment under high doses of lactate. And we put them in a position where that they will underperform in terms of their sled push total distance within that 6 seconds, but that's because of the accrued lactate. And that to me would be a workout that would help them in not only the recruitment of fast twitch, explosive speed, strength, power motor units, but it would also help them with the recovery and then also performing under higher and higher doses of lactate. I would think that those would be competitive advantages for these athletes because putting them in a position that they know no one else is doing those things. Right. Yeah, I mean, I also like the idea of finding movements. I mean, if we look at like the pommel horse, and like you said, the upper body is doing a tremendous amount of anaerobic work, and the amount of lactate that's accruing in the localized muscles, and you know, it's spilling into the bloodstream. I mean, the fact that they get lactate measurable in their bloodstream after doing the pommel horse tells you the level of intensity. Right. I mean, it's really remarkable. And I would think that protocols that work the extremes of what they're about to experience, meaning we want to create an environment that is more extreme than what they're about to experience in the competition from the intensity side, but we also want to cover the other side of the spectrum and doing something that's more on the recovery side. So meaning doing a pommel horse routine and then going into an active recovery, and mimicking those same movement patterns. Right. Where the legs, you know what, they're locked out. I'm assuming there'd be tension in the hip flexors, and maybe going into some kind of a movement like a heavily weighted Russian twist, you know, with a 55-pound plate doing Russian twists and bouncing it off the floor. And movements like that, we're mimicking the movement patterns that just occurred, but extending the length of time under control where it's safe.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in the North Shore of Oahu, and I was with a bunch of elite level surfers.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that CrossFit's been really great on is that I'm pretty good at training and listening to athletes and where they identify their problems,
right,
and finding protocols then to address that. And when these surfers were talking, they were saying that the number one injury in surfing is a blown ACL. And you could see how that happens because they're coming down the face of a wave and the water is choppy, and the board and the impact, and especially, the back leg and the angle that it's at, you can see it hits a, chop of water, and boom, there goes the ACL.
Yeah.
But my quest for what they were really saying goes beyond that. Why wasn't their leg more stable? Why was their leg wobbly? And they said to me, but our legs don't do anything. Our legs aren't tired when we're paddling out to hit the lineup. And I said, let me ask you something. How fatigued is your upper body when you hit the lineup? And they said, oh my gosh, sometimes it's just like we can't, even though the perfect wave comes, we can't take it because our upper body is so smoked.
Yeah.
And we know if we have to re-paddle out that it will compromise us. And so I said, so the amount of fatigue in your upper body is so great that you have to take a long amount of rest. Absolutely, they say. So the thing is that what they're not recognizing, and they don't know, is that localized fatigue in the upper body translates into the fatigue in the neighboring muscle groups. And then just like in gymnastics, it hits the bloodstream. And when it hits the bloodstream, it goes throughout the entire body. Excuse me. And what it's trying to find is vacant muscle groups, slow twitch aerobic fibers to try and clear it.
Yeah.
And so where does it go? For a surfer, it goes to the legs.
Right.
But imagine a surfer doesn't realize that their legs are pre-fatigued before they go and stand on a 30-foot wave. That's what's happening to a gymnast, is that it's only upper body.
Yeah.
But what they don't realize is that their lower body, because it's not aerobically fit, it is not able to clear the fatigue that just built up in an upper body routine.
Yeah.
That is the consequence of what's happening. And the athlete is sitting going, I have no idea what's wrong. I went upper body to upper body to upper body, and my legs feel like jello. I don't get it. And that's what surfers were saying.
Right.
I don't understand why my legs are wobbly. They associated it with fear. And what it was localized fatigue. And
so say we have the biggest problem we've identified is, again, 2 back-to-back upper body events and then a lower body event coming within 10-minute window. What is something that you would think would be valuable for a gymnast to train to try to build fatigue up body and then clear that with the lower body? Is there a certain workout you would value for that?
Well, so I think that just looking at just the entire events is the very first thing that I would do. I mean, that's the thing that makes CrossFit so challenging, is that most of the time we have no idea what the workout is. We've never, and when we walk in, we see that workout and we look at it and it's like, wow, I've never seen that movement combination. I've never seen that load scheme. And it's completely unknown.
Yeah.
Gymnasts have the answers to the test. You're given you know exactly what the workouts are. There are zero surprises. And so if we refer to that as specific training, meaning that if you're given the test, then specifically train for the answers to that test. And just like, in identifying, the vault in that 6 seconds, look at that and now let's train that. And one of the things that we want to make sure we do is we train way beyond the time domain in the competition so that the body is prepared for something much greater.
Sure.
We do know that if we increase the amount of time, that there's, a greater level of overload, and that's where we're going to find that adaptation. I think that that is the number one thing that we need to be looking at is those events and identifying what movement patterns are being done within those events, what time domains are being done, and then we can start writing workouts and protocols to maximize the performance as they progress through the routine.